This is an introductory sort of class into like creating parts and assemblies for robotics in Fusion 360. So first off, like just looking around Fusion is the basic way to look around Fusion is to use your middle mouse button and just drag it around here. And actually, just dragging around, you'll see that the part rotates with it. And using Shift, you can also zoom in and out as well as just scroll normally. And you can pan by holding Control and middle mouse. You can also change the options to be different by going to your preferences. There we go. And then selecting the different type of maneuvering, I guess you want here. So when you're building a part, the first thing you want to do is create a sketch of it. So we have this handy dandy sketch tool here, and then you can select one of the three main planes in a workspace. And from here, you can just create any sort of design you want. So we have access to lines, any form of rectangle you want, circles, and other things. So for this, we're just going to create a simple cube, and you can input, and you can either just click in the middle and then click somewhere else to create it, or you can, where is it? You can click in the middle and then you can input numbers into the different bars there. So let's just say we want to create a square. So we're going to put 10 on the bottom. And then to switch to the other input box, you have to click tab. Then you just put in a number there. And again, you just click to create the part. And once you have a basic sketch of what you want, you can move on to extruding it. To extrude it, you click this button right here, or you can open the drop-down menu and click it here. Then in the extrude box, you can just either drag this like before, or you can input a number again. In this case, we're just going to create a 10 by 10 cube here. Yep. That's how you create a simple object. Of course, there are more advanced things we can do with the extrude. Like, you can change it to select from both sides here and extrude it like that. And then you can just change it separately here. And you can also just make it symmetric. So dragging one side will change both sides at once. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So another thing we can do besides extruding is revolving stuff. So when revolving, you have to select an axis. Let's just choose this axis here. Then you also select the profile, which we're just going to choose the shape we created earlier. And from here, we can just drag this little disc here. So it should work. Huh. Try that again. There we go. We're going to choose that axis this time, and then it'll create a cylinder here, which you can change how many degrees it rotates by either dragging this or again inputting numbers into the box. So that's a simple overview of the different things you can do with like the sketch, extrude, and revolve tool. Of course, when sketching, there is quite a few more things you can create than just squares and rectangles using all the different tools here. And I suggest you guys explore with that later. But on to the main point of this, which is assemblies. So the main reason we use assemblies is to like figure out like the spacing of your robot. So in this case, we knew we needed to have a motor here and a wheel here. So using the assembly, we were able to figure out where we want them in relation to each other so we could create the motor mounts around it. That's part of the reason we use assemblies. Also, it's really handy just when creating a robot to figure out how everything meshes together. So that's why we use assemblies. So with assemblies, the first thing you need to do is is to first import a part into your assembly. So in this case, we're going to go to our parts folder. So people on SpawnCon, this is essentially where we have all of our parts from all the different manufacturers of parts, and as well as some of our own that we've used from season to season. So in this case, we're just going to go to Tetrix, and we're going to grab one of their C channels they have here. Now, to add a part to a design, we're going to right click on the part we want and click insert into current design. What? Okay. In some cases, it'll tell you that you can't do it until you actually save the part. So to save a part, all you do is open the part, go here, then click save or save or save as. Then when you click save as, you can simply rename it to whatever you want, and then click save to save it. Then it'll take a sec for it to save, and then we can now insert it into our design. So once doing that, to manipulate a part in Fusion 360, you can either click and drag on one of the axes it has here or one of the planes it has here to move it in two-dimensional mode, or you can input like the XY coordinates and distances there. To rotate it, you can just drag on these axes here. And again, you can of course just type in what number of degrees you want to change it by. So in this case, we're just going to create a flat C channel here at 90 degrees, perpendicular, parallel to the floor. Then now that we have this, we can import another part. This is again a C channel, and then we're going to move it around until we have, and now we're going to connect them together. Typically, when connecting them together, we're going to choose two different holes here, and then we're going to use the joint tool. Joint tool is right here, or again, you can click on the assemble button here, and then click joint. So once you have the joint tool open, you have to select two parts to mate together. So in this part, we're going to select the large circle here, and I'll highlight both the circle and the entire part so you're not able to select it again. And then select this part here. So then the joint tool will move the two parts together. It'll move the first part towards the second part. Once the two parts are connected, we're able to change the angle of the two parts so we can have them aligned in any way we want to. In this case, we're going to have it where the holes line up. So, oh, whoa. So also with joints, we're able to select different types of joint motion. In this case, this is just a rigid joint, but we're also able to create revolute joints, which is where the joint will just spin around in place. This is helpful for when you're trying to create a robot that has a spinning part, like a wheel or a collector. There's also sliders, which move vertically, like on a piston. And they're cylindrical, where it does the revolution and moving like a piston. The pin slot, where it'll move horizontally, like if it were to move in a slot or a groove on a part. The planer, where you can set established directions and boundaries for it to slide around. And a ball joint, which is a ball joint so it allows the parts to move in any sort of axis. In this case, we're going to stick with the rigid joint because we don't want the parts to move when they're set together. So that is one way we can put parts together. Another way we're able to attach parts is by simply moving them together using this point-to-point tool here. So you select the point on one part, and then you can select the point on another part, and it'll move the two parts together. Once you do that, you have to select both parts in the menu over here, and then right click and then rigid group them together to stop them from moving. Yeah. So once we have all these parts assembled together, if you want to create a part, sorry, if you want to animate one of the parts to move, you simply click on the joint, right click and select animate joint. Of course, it will just start shaking because it's a rigid group, sorry, a rigid joint, but if it was separate, if it was like a revolute joint, it would just spin around in a circle. And to stop it from animating, you just have to click escape. So, yep, colors. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. To access like the whole color menu selection thing, you press A. There we go. Then it'll pop up. And then you select a part here just by left clicking on it. And then you can maneuver around in Fusion's library to find whatever you want. In this case, we're just going to go find platinum, for example. And then you just click and drag platinum over to the part there. And that barely changed the color. So something better. Copper.
Raw.
What? Copper. Oh, yep. Other thing. You can't act, so when you have an assembly and you import parts into it, you can't change the color of the part in the assembly. You have to go back to the main part and then change the color there. So here we can do it.
Is that permanently changing the Tetrix like file itself for all of us, or is it just a copy?
Yes. Well, this is actually a copy of the original one,
Okay.
but yeah. So if we update it here by clicking the yellow tringle there, it updates all these to now be copper. So in this section, we're going to show how changing different parts affects the entire assembly. So here we have two parts here, and we're going to be editing this top part here. So we're going to open the actual part itself here, and we're going to add a cube on top of it. So we're just going to take the rectangle cube tool and then make a 2 centimeter cube on top of it. Okay, now that we have the cube there, we're going to save it here and then name it something that's actually descriptive as to help our teammates. And then we'll go back to the main assembly. And then once we're in the main assembly, we can select this button here, and that will update all the components in it, adding the cube into this version. So here's our cube here. Any questions?
No.